Hi, my name is Ralph Harris. I'm the military guy. I'm commander for the VFW Post 423 in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Today's program is the second about Ann Arbor military veterans. The first was about D-Day. This time, it's about the Korean War. It started on June 25th, 1950. The shooting stopped in 1953. That's over 50 years ago, over a half a century. Technically, the war still goes on. Today's guests are Tom Ernst from Ypsilanti. He served in the 61st 47th Tactical Air Control Group, K6 K47 Air Force Base. And I know I'm going to butcher this, Tom, but it's Chonson, or something like that, since I don't speak Korean. Which was north.
And Chuncheon.
Thank you, Tom. Which was north of Seoul near the 38th parallel, which separated North Korea from South Korea. Betty Dove from Ann Arbor. She was a nurse in a mass unit caring for Republic of Korean troops known as ROKs. Her unit was the 171st Station Hospital Far East Command. Bill Oldersdorf here is from Whitmore Lake. He was a member of I Company, 3rd Battalion, 5th Regiment of the 1st Marine Division. Most Americans aren't old enough to remember the Korean War, since it was over a half a century ago. Therefore, I'd like to share a few historical facts about the war before I interview the guests. 5 years after the end of World War II, Communist North Korea invaded South Korea in an attempt to unify both Koreas into a single communist state. The United Nations Security Council voted to intervene militarily. The USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republic, which was a member of the Security Council, could have vetoed this move. Unfortunately for them, their representative was not present for the vote because of their boycott of the United Nations. The United States quickly moved unprepared peacetime occupation troops from Japan to the Korean Peninsula to stop the North Korean advance into South Korea. United States troops stopped the North Koreans around the city of Busan in the southeastern part of South Korea. This became known as the Busan Perimeter. Other United Nations troops were sent and quickly joined the war. General Douglas MacArthur, who commanded the United Nations troops in an unexpected, brilliant maneuver, did an in-run around the North Korean army in the first year by launching an amphibious assault at Incheon near the 38th parallel. This cut off the North Korean army's supply line. General MacArthur decided to push into North Korea all the way to the Yalu River, separating North Korea from Communist China. The Chinese didn't like this. Over 1 million Communist Chinese troops crossed the Yalu River and attacked the United Nations forces. And Bill will have a story for us about that shortly. Being greatly outnumbered, the United Nations forces were pushed back below the 38th parallel. And all this fighting and all this military movement occurred during the first year of the war. However, fierce seesaw fighting would continue until 1953. The United States suffered over 50,000 dead, 103,000 wounded, 8,177 missing in action, and 7,000 prisoners of war, of which only 51% returned home. The Korean War was the first 20th century war that sanctuary, Manchuria, was given, and military victory not attempted. Now then, let's get to our guests here. Tom, tell us about yourself. Where are you from? What schools did you go to? Are you married? Do you have children, grandchildren? Tell us a little bit.
Well, I was raised in Detroit. I went to a trade school there until I was 17. Then I went in the service. I was in the 11th grade. And school and I didn't get along. My dad let me go in the Air Force because I was going to be a heavy equipment operator, miscellaneous equipment. I did my time at Lackland. Went to school at Fort Francis E. Warren, Cheyenne. Went through heavy equipment and well drill school there. Learned rotary and percussion well drilling, road rollers, ditch diggers, construction equipment. From there I went to Okinawa, spent 49 on Okinawa. Come back to the States in 50 to Westover Air Force Base. Korea started, and the first sergeant was putting up a note on the bulletin board requesting heavy equipment operators for Orly Field, France. I ran inside and got my name. I was the first one on the list.
Okay, now, we'll get to more of your story in just
That
a second. Yes?
is overseas, request for overseas
And are
duty.
you married, Tom?
I am now, yes, to the same lady for 50 years.
And I've met her, and she's a wonderful lady. Got any kids?
I have 5, 3 girls, 2 boys.
Grandchildren?
I have 3 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild.
Thank you. How about you, Betty? Where are you from? Schools, spouse, children, grandkids?
Okay, I came from Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland?
Yes, and
You're an Easterner.
yes, and I graduated from Philadelphia General Hospital, and I got my degree from the University of Maryland. And I finally joined the service and stationed in Denver, and then I went to Korea. I arrived in Korea about a month before they signed the armistice.
So you missed some of that heavy action, thank goodness.
Most of it, yes.
All right, that's good. How about children? Spouse?
I'm divorced. I have 3 children,
Okay.
no grandchildren.
No grandchildren?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. How about you, Bill?
I was born and raised in Ypsilanti. Came from a family of 9 boys, 3 sisters. And I was the youngest boy. My father, he was a police officer. Mom, she was from Poland. I went to Ypsilanti High to first semester of the 10th grade. Something happened. I was kind of a hard kid to instill discipline in.
I understand you were a bad boy at times.
At times I was.
And you left school, which is fine.
And I joined the Marine Corps. I was 15 years old.
They straightened you out, I assume.
Quite a bit.
I would hope so.
I went to boot camp at Parris Island. Got transferred, or came back to Grosse Ile, Michigan to VMF 221. Korea was getting hot and heavy, so I went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. They took 1/2 of the base when things really got hot in Korea, and we went to Camp Pendleton, California for some strenuous training for a few weeks. On over to Korea, landed in Incheon.
So you're a part of that end run.
Yes,
Okay.
very much so.
Now, we'll get to your story in just a second after you get to Korea, because it's a very interesting. Are you married?
I am married. I have a wife of 46 years. I have 3 children, 2 daughters and 1 son.
I met one of your daughters. She's a good looker.
They all are. Take after mom.
Took after her mom. Grandkids?
I have 6 grandkids, 2 great-grandkids.
Oh, my Lord. Tom, how old were you when you were in Korea?
When I was in Korea, I was 19 years old.
Just a young buck. How about you, Betty?
27.
27. Oh, you were an old lady for
Yep.
the military. How about you, Bill?
I was 15.
Okay. Tom, what was your rank in Korea?
When I got there, I was a corporal. When I left, I was a buck sergeant.
That's cool. How about you, Betty? You were a 2nd lieutenant or a 1st lieutenant?
First lieutenant.
1st lieutenant. All right, sorry. And how about you, Bill?
I was a PFC. I left as a corporal.
Okay, and how long were you in Korea, Tom?
I got there in May, and I think it was October. I got back to the States
Okay.
following year. From May 51 till October 52.
Okay, how about you, Betty?
1 year.
1 year. How about you, Bill?
I had a total time of just right around 32 months, just about 3 tours. But in between tours, I had 2 trips to the hospital in Japan and hospital ships.
Well, we're going to get to that story because I know it's a good one. Tom, what was the most dangerous or the scariest memory that you have of Korea? Now, you were in an Air Force base. Were you ever attacked or close, or did
Oh yeah, we had, when we moved up K-47, we had a sniper up on the hill. And he used to wait for the pilots to go out in the morning, and he'd send a round down at them. Well, we had Army half-tracks with quad 50s and a couple 40s around our base for air defense, which we never had any problem. So one morning they all pointed up towards a hill, and our little Korean friend threw a round down, and everything on the base opened up on the hill. We didn't have any problems after that.
I've heard that story. You took about 5 feet off of that hill, right?
Well, let's just say we adjusted the territory.
I don't think young people today understand what a 50 caliber can do. What was your most dangerous thing, Betty? Did you have any times where you were a little nervous?
No, not really. We
Well, you
felt
were lucky.
very
You got there
safe.
when the shooting was more or less ending, right?
Oh, yeah, there was no shooting at that time. One time, I was getting ready to go to work on duty at midnight and just nonchalantly walking down, and somebody hollers, "Halt! Who goes there?" And you could hear the gun. Oh, I think that scared me more than anything else.
Yeah, I would hope so. Now, Bill, this is the time for you to, whoops. This is the time for you to tell us about your story, because this is something. Now, let me help you a little bit. As I understand it, the 1st Marine Division was going up the east side of Korea, and you went up to a place called the Chosan Reservoir, the frozen Chosin, a little cold and so forth. So what happened to you?
We were really cut off up there through,
When the Chinese came across the Yalu.
yes, my company got hit by 3 divisions,
3 divisions against 1 company.
one company.
That's what, about 30, 40,000 against 120?
Approximate. We were reinforced with a couple of machine guns and mortar.
Okay.
But that was probably the most worried I was. I don't know about being scared. I was probably scared all the time, didn't know it.
You know, we heard that, from the guys that were in World War II. You're not scared at the time. You're just doing your duty and staying alive.
Doing what comes naturally.
Did you think you were going to die?
You betcha. I did.
Okay.
I did every day I was up there.
Now, as I understand it, you were wounded
Yes, I was.
and you were captured
Yes, I was.
by the Chinese.
I couldn't tell who it was, but I think it was the North Koreans. And it was only for a short period of time, like
How'd you get away?
maybe, well, there was 8 of us that survived that attack. In the morning, went back up on the hill, and there was nobody living. There was a lot of death up there, both sides. So I didn't suggest. I said, I'm getting the blazes out of here. And the guy says, well, where are we going? I says, I don't know, but I'm going. And it was about 40 below that morning, and we were cold.
Now, excuse me, now let me interrupt just for a second. As I understand it, didn't you have to fight your way out of there? Did you have to get rid of your captors?
The 7 guys that
I know you probably don't want to talk about it.
yes, that I was with, they overpowered the 2 sentries that they left there in a little mud hut, thatched roof on it. And but that we were taken after we had left the hill. Maybe about 2 hours later, we were by a much stronger force than just those 2 sentries.
How cold was it? Because I know it was cold up there. They call it the frozen Chosin.
They say it was 40 below, and that wasn't wind chill factor either.
Is that where your ears went bad?
My ears, my hands, my feet. We stripped clothes off our dead. We couldn't take their clothes of the opposing troops because our own troops would have shot us, of course.
Then you made it back to the lines, as I understand it, and you were taken to Japan, right?
I was put on a hospital ship, the USS Riopos, and they operated on me right away. After I thawed out, if it hadn't been so cold, I wouldn't be here today because the blood actually froze. I had no use of my left arm.
Now, as I understand it, you celebrated a birthday recovering in Japan. How old were you when you were there?
16. I had my 16th birthday in Yokosuka Naval Hospital.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a big time story. How about your best friends? Did any of those guys get wounded, or did they survive, or do you remember? Or?
They all got killed, the whole company. Company commander, everybody, except the 8 of us.
Wow.
So yes, I did lose a lot of people there, friends.
Okay, let's talk about something a little more positive, and I'm glad you're here, Bill. Tom, what was your best memory in Korea? Anything that comes out, jumps?
Our chaplain.
Your chaplain.
Yeah, he was a wheeler dealer.
What'd he
Catholic
do?
priest, he was a chaplain, and he made the rounds every night, stop by the tent, see how things were going, anybody need anything, and they had a holding pen just up the road from us. The
Holding pen for what?
people, if they'd pick them up along the line,
Refugees or
yeah,
enemy? Okay.
refugees, Koreans.
Okay.
And the orphan children, they had a special place for them. And this chaplain would con us out of our good chow to take to the children.
Okay. Well, you didn't object to that, of course.
No, he was a good guy.
Okay.
That was one of my most pleasant memories. Having someone over there that cared so much about the kids.
I didn't know you had a soft spot, Tom.
Oh, well, you get over there and you see them, why. We had one that had a houseboy by the name of Shin. Everybody emptied their pockets for him, and when we left through the Catholic father, we got him sent to Japan to educate him. We got him his clothes, got the paperwork all signed, and we footed the bill. We had to have so much money.
We still do those things. We're doing it in Iraq now, and people don't know about that. And even in Korea, we were doing it.
Well, he was a good kid. He worked hard, never gave us any mouth, and
Yep.
he didn't have anybody. So,
How about you, Betty? What was your best memory in Korea?
It's the friends that you make.
The friends you made? Yeah. Do you stay in contact with any of them?
Just one.
Just one?
Just one
Was
left.
it a nurse or a doc?
Nurse.
Okay. How about you, Bill?
You know, it's a hard question for me to answer because if I try to research my memory, you know, going back that length of time, I can't say I ever had any free time where you laughed, you joked, and everything because
Well, you
I
were
was
intent-
always wondering about the 200 and some odd fellows that were married, had families, they were gone. Me, I was young, I was single, I had nothing but my dad to worry about when I got back home for running away. And
Here you're 16 and you survive, and all these people who are older than you, and they don't come back.
yes, I still think about that today.
You don't have too many good memories, obviously.
But I guess the day that they told me I was coming home.
That'll do it. How about you, Tom? Do you have any close calls over there?
If you're going to be there, you're going to run into some close calls.
Well, you had that sniper trying to...
6150th was part of our group, and that was radio jeeps. They'd go up on a line and direct airstrikes. We had T-6G aircraft, smoke rockets underneath the wing. There were techs and trainers.
Would they spot the...
They would spot, and then they would lay a smoke rocket on it.
And then what, Corsairs would come in and...
Corsairs, well, South Apps had 51s. We had some F-80s up there, some F-86s, depending on who's in the area at that time.
F-86 were the Sabre jets, and the other one were the Carrier, what were those jets called?
Panther.
Panthers.
Yeah.
But they weren't using them yet,
Not yet.
not until 53.
Okay.
They had the Corsairs, and they were their,
There was the Gull Wing.
yeah, that was their ground
That
support
was a World War
aircraft.
II plane, and they were still using them in Korea.
That's right.
And a very good close air.
Well, F-51 was a World War II aircraft.
That's right. Yeah.
T-6 was a trainer. We made do with what we had. And my outfit was the beginning of air ground support.
Well, if you remember, after World War II, we destroyed everything and figured it was all over. 5 years, we don't have diddly because we've destroyed all that stuff, sunk it and all that. We had to come back. How about you, Betty? Do you have any close calls there at the MASH unit, or anything that chances of getting disease, sick, whatever?
Not really. We felt
Are you
like,
being modest now, Betty?
No, but we were well taken care of. I always felt like we were
I've
well
seen that
taken
picture. I
care
can
of.
see why you were taken care of.
It was
See,
all of us, not just me, but there were about 15 of us nurses, and they took good care of us. And
Thank you. And Bill, we already know you were wounded. How many times were you wounded and whereabouts were they? Can you point?
I was hit in the shoulder.
You got a little place on your arm there, don't you? Somewhere
No, I got my legs were the second time. So if you don't have your use of your arms, you don't have use of your legs, they don't have any use for you there. That was a good time because I got to go back to Japan.
And you're 16. I
I'm
still
16.
can't go. We're basically the same age. I tried to join the Army in 1950, and they said, "Get out of here, kid. You're too young." You must have been an old-looking 15-year-old.
They just needed somebody that was wild, and felt sorry for him because I knew my dad, if he ever got a hold of me, he would
Kill
have
you.
done something. Nah, he
You've
was
told me about your dad. He was a harsh one, I understand.
He was a good old man, though.
Okay.
He
Now, Bill,
took
when you,
care of
or Tom, when you came home, how were you treated? Did anybody know you were away? Did you come home? Did
I
it?
got home in '52, and they put me up in Duluth. They issued me blues.
That's right. Now, excuse me. People don't know this, but you were a career military guy. So you were in the Air Force, and weren't you in the Army for a while? And,
No, I
No?
spent 5 years,
Navy.
6 months, 18 days in the Air Force. 48 to 53 in the Air Force, and 58 to 72 in the Navy. I was career designated. It had to do some good because 3 of my children, my daughter and my 2 sons, both went in the service. My daughter and her husband retired. Debbie had 20 years and Mike had 24 years, her husband. My youngest boy put 14 years with the Air Force, and because they wouldn't promote him above Staff Sergeant, he got out and went to work for General Service Administration.
Now, you know how I know your military career? This morning I'm lying in bed, and you called me and said, "Where are you?" And I said, "Tom, it's 8 p.m." And he's looking at 8, and he's thinking it's military time because 0800 is morning. And in my little thing it said, I ran and got it, and it was 8 p.m. civilian time. Is that
All
true?
right. I never looked at your letter. You had been calling me and prompting me on this,
About 8 o'clock.
and all you said was 8.
Okay, sorry about
So
that. Well,
if you'd have said 2,000 hours, I'd have been here
well,
at
next-
2,000 hours.
Next time I have to get
You
it
know how
right.
these young children are. They don't know time. I mean,
Now, Betty, when you got home, how were you treated?
oh, very well. It was a year after the war was over,
And what year was it when you came home?
54.
54? That was the year I graduated from high school.
Okay.
Big deal, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it was just changing jobs. I went home to go to school.
Okay. And how about you, Bill? When you came home, how were you treated? Was
I
it
came
good?
home on my dad's birthday, 29th of January, 1954. We left Korea in November, I believe it was. But as far as being treated, I had no job. I had no formal training. I quit high school, first semester, 10th grade. Who in the heck is going to hire somebody, maybe a bank robber or somebody, partner with him? I knew
So-
how to fire a weapon, but
You know how to
so,
kill people, but that's not very good here in Michigan.
But I finally got a job, a steady job at General Motors. I was taking an apprenticeship for electrician. And I talked my way into that apprenticeship job. But winter came, and I took the job with General Motors just to get me out of the cold weather and to hold me over till weather broke. Well, 38 and a half years later, finally broke. I retired.
Okay. Bill, Tom, what are you doing today?
me, I'm with the Washtenaw County Council of Veterans, Honor Guard. This started back in '94.
You're one of the original members of that group, right?
That's right.
I'm a proud member of that group.
Joe Rodriguez and a few other people sat down one time, and because we weren't getting a full amount of men out. And Joe says, you can do better than 10 bar here at the V. Get out and get this thing going.
Now, Betty, what are you doing today?
I'm retired and volunteer at the VA.
Okay, and Bill, what are you doing nowadays?
I belong with the Honor Guard also with Tom, and he and I alternate when he's not there.
And you got a cool
there,
Mercedes-Benz convertible.
I do the screaming, and feels good to have somebody do something that you want them to do, you know, by telling them, you know, present arms. 'Cause
When you go upstairs, I want that convertible in your will for me.
well, you never get that because I think I'm going back to hell again.
Okay, now, Bill, you brought along some medals and things. Would you mind holding that up for us? This gentleman has just a few.
You got them upside
It's
down.
upside down. Yeah, there you go. This means he was a corporal. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 medals and 14 ribbons.
2 more to go.
And I don't think you'll be tossing them over a fence anywhere, will you?
No, I never met up with Curry.
Oh, well, no, I didn't mean it that way. And let's see, what else? You got anything to Betty, why don't you hold that picture up? She was a doll, I'll tell you this much.
Yeah, yes, okay.
Look at that.
She had to have been there in 53. It should have been there in 52, and I would have saw her. I'd have been chasing her.
Yeah.
And Tom, did you bring something to show?
No,
Camera broke?
no, my proudest thing are my children.
Well, it's too bad they're not here.
I have well, Bill, like I say, was Air Force. My oldest son, Tom, he went Navy. He was a GMG, gunner's mate. And he made turret captain on a fast frigate as a 3rd class. He spent most of his time over in the Med, and when he come home, he told me, Dad, it's not for me. So, but they are my pride.
We have a quick picture. You want to see somebody young. I mean, look at this. A young trooper in 15 or 16 years old at a bunker. Well, anyway, this sort of concludes our interview tonight with these 3 wonderful people. We have so many veterans in Ann Arbor. Our next show is going to be about Vietnam, and I've got some wonderful guests lined up for that. I want to thank you, Tom. I want to thank you, Betty. I want to thank you, Bill, for being here. I sort of get choked up from time to time when I talk to these guys, because I don't just talk to them here. Being post commander at 423, we have none of these people want to be called heroes, but they are heroes, and they live in our county. They live in our area, and there's not enough said, and these guys aren't, and gals, aren't going to go around bragging, so it's people like me that sort of have to drag things out. So thank you, Tom. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Bill.
There's only one thing I want to brag about.
Yes.
My other 9 brothers were also in the service during World War II, and 2 of them in Korea. Not in Korea, but at that time.
They all come home?
All came home.
Wonderful. And so from Ann Arbor and from VFW Post 423, come and join us. We are out on Wagner Road. We need you.
Oh, and you people from Ann Arbor, you say I look familiar. For 20 years, I was a mailman right here in town.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.